Good morning, all you podcast listeners out there. This is Joshua Sturr and Freedom Affairs Podcast, here with my friends Brandon McPherson and Caleb John Cushing. Say hello, boys.
Hello, boys.
What's up, Brandon here? How you guys doing in New York?
We're doing good. It's cold. It's rainy.
It's cold.
It's rainy. It's snowy
Well, no,
here.
it's not
so
raining,
how cold
I
can
guess.
it really be there?
Is it raining? No, this weekend is rain.
This weekend is rain.
It is rain. No, we're
Syria
good. We're
first.
good. How are you up in Mr. Toronto, eh?
I'm good. We are in a lockdown again. So not a lot going on, unfortunately. But just trying to be patient. Some things coming out soon that should hopefully move the chains a little bit.
Yeah.
Just waiting for the pandemic for this quarantine to be over.
I love it because I've seen so many lists now, and I know we won't get into it because we know we don't want to talk about it, because there was that list that just came out in the time for the 25 best actors of the century so far.
I can't talk about
And then
that.
and then last night I read an article about the 8 worst movies on Netflix, including there was one that got a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. I won't say its name because I don't want to shame it.
Don't want to speak it into existence. Say, what is it? I want to know.
Well,
Yes,
okay,
I'm
now I have to
interested.
look it up because
Now I'm
Is
interested.
it Assassin something like 20, 30 AD or whatever the fuck it is?
hold on.
There's I heard about this. I don't know exactly.
I
what it
love
is.
that movie.
All right, Brandon.
Oh my god. You guys keep talking, but but it's just interesting now that people have time to
People are so fucking bored.
Yeah.
that
They're just
making
consuming
all these-
and yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, speaking of consuming, so I just started watching Legend of Korra. I never watched it.
Oh,
really?
I never watched I just had never it never clicked with me. But then so
Pretty good, right?
it's so good. I mean, so because me and Michelle have been watching it, so I got more into it. And then once the story starts, it fucking goes.
I think is
man.
once I talked to Caleb when I was watching this the beginning of the summer. Get through the second season, and then it's fine. Because for me,
Oh, I mean,
wait, where are you actually?
still in the first season,
Okay.
spoiler alert in 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
They just took over the city.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's still early, but I'm hooked. I'm in.
Yeah.
I loved The Last Airbender.
Yeah, I mean,
obviously,
everybody
but,
does. I feel like
Yeah.
people generally say season 2 of Korra is the worst one. I think they're all good. I do think that season 3 is my favorite, but yeah, it's a great show. And I think I'm
loving it.
yeah, it's great.
They're their own contained kind of thing, right?
Yeah, because
So-
Avatar, it was they went in, okay, we have 3 seasons. And Korra was renewed every, it was you get 1 season, so they did it. And they're oh, you get another one. And every
Oh,
season,
really?
that's why every season, it kind of they have to tie it up. And then it was oh, you get another one. And then they didn't even get to do everything they were promised for season 4. They cut their budget.
Really?
Yeah, Nickelodeon, that whole, if you read up about how that all went down, they got really shafted. It's a miracle they were able to make anything remotely as good as what they came up with. Just with
Well, I mean, they got we talked about this on the podcast, but they just got
the Netflix thing
shafted again, and
it's crazy, man. People don't like
I don't-
originality.
just-
they need
it's-
things to
yeah.
be
It's
safe.
their own story. It's their own world. Just let them do it. It's also we've talked about this already, but there's factual evidence of why you don't fuck with it. We saw that happen in the movie already.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
How,
Yeah,
how
definitely.
quickly we forget the tragedies of
How
our
many
past.
Razzies do you need to win?
All right, so I have the movie real quick.
Okay.
The movie that got 0%
0.
on Rotten
Who sang?
Tomatoes was
The Last Airbender.
Yeah, no, even that got 4. I don't know. It's The Last Days of American Crime.
Last days of
In this
American
action,
Crime.
the premise is in this action thriller based on a 2009 graphic novel, a team of thieves attempts one last heist before the U.S. government deploys a new technology that will theoretically end crime. And
Nice.
the critic poll, it came out June 5th. It's 2.5 hours long.
Oh, good.
And the critic burn that they pulled from the New York Post, which is whatever, is I need something bad and fast. Criminal Graham Brick says to the weapons dealer early in The Last Days of American Crime, the Netflix action film definitely fulfills one of those criteria. It is so bad, but it is ever eye-gougingly slow. So,
Eye-gougingly slow.
Yeah.
Damn, love it. So that's what we're doing next time. No.
Well, it's like I'm surprised like there's something worse than Hottie and the Naughty, but even Hottie and the Naughty got 7, or like
Yeah, Hottie and the Naughty's
You
not
know?
terrible. There's one redeeming quality about that movie, and that it's under 90 minutes long. Dude, that's fucking crazy. Yeah, people. Isn't it funny? Like, you read something, it's like, how the fuck did this like get made?
how is this made?
Like, who was like, yeah, this is a good idea,
And I'm not
then
saying-
just every step of the way, because nobody sets out to make a bad movie, right?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
everything comes from a place of like something.
But the weirdest part is then something like that's on Netflix, and how many, friends do we have or things that we've seen that friends have done where it's like, what? So that's made and nobody's buying that, but something like this is on Netflix. The fuck is going
Yeah.
on?
Well, at some point, I would imagine that it becomes a selling point, right? It's like, oh, people will watch this to see how bad it is.
It's
And
true.
so Netflix, so it's kind of like you have to do one or the other. Like you have to make something either really good or really horrible. Because if you just make something average, people are going to be like, oh, I don't,
Yeah,
not
it's
interested.
fine.
It's hard to market that.
Well, or something, absolutely fearless, which I think, for a director, we saw this, we'll get into this later, but Mel Brooks was talking about this about David Lynch, or David Lynch talking about Mel Brooks, being like, he saw Eraserhead and ran out and hugged him, was like, you're a madman, I love you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but that's something that's like really bold and great.
Right. But I'm saying, but that can go the other way, right? And like, I haven't seen Eraserhead yet, but I know that people either love it or hate it, right?
Yeah, it's very polarizing.
My understanding.
But
Yeah.
that's different from...
Yes,
Yeah,
there's obviously redeeming qualities in it, even if you don't like it. You can't.
I haven't seen it.
David Lynch.
Well, I don't know. Maybe I'll be the first one to. Maybe I'll make it a 1% on Rotten Tomato. Maybe I'll love this movie. I don't know. I gotta check it
Wow.
out. Wow.
You're just feeding into that
website.
clickbait. Oh, and I forgot. Sorry, guys,
So
I forgot to
contrarian,
mention.
it'd be like 5 stars. It's my favorite movie of the year. Sorry.
Forgot to mention. Today we will be discussing David Lynch's Elephant Man from 1980. So I'm really excited
Boys.
about which is I found Caleb
I
aired out my laundry like preemptively.
It's
and
not
so,
about the score; it's about the conversation. So I don't
It's
think
true.
it matters.
It's right. You're right.
I know.
But I want to talk a little
that
bit.
You should know I'm always right, listeners.
This is true. I will not argue. So,
Getting
but
glared at.
another aspect too about this whole quarantine and people recreating and just kind of whatever is, I'm surprised we didn't talk about or mention anything about the Grammys and like the selections.
Who cares about the Grammys? I
Right.
don't give a
And
shit.
I think it's
People are upset. How do you feel? Your boy got snubbed. People are saying, Brandon.
Who, The Weeknd?
Mr. The Weeknd, yeah.
I mean, I don't. Didn't he win like 12 Grammys last year? Like, what's the problem? I don't know. Like,
I don't know. Did he? I thought the whole thing was that he didn't. He hasn't won one yet.
I don't think that's true. I mean, I could be totally wrong. It feels like, okay, you didn't get nominated. I mean,
Well, because
yeah.
a lot of people are saying that this new thing is his best thing. And so, like,
okay.
that's the only thing. I don't
Okay.
care. I'm not invested. I'm just trying to give
No.
you context for it.
It's just so interesting where it's like, I get people being upset that they didn't get nominated. I don't know what it would be. Wasn't there?
another big critical thing though that people have been saying is that like and we know all this about award shows, like it's all bureaucracy, it's all political. Like it was only like a few years ago that we started boycotting the Oscars for whitewashing type of shit, right? So in the Grammys, a lot of people have been kind of dissecting in terms of like people's individual tastes of music, which is all subjective. Like it's really hard. And a lot of these albums that have been nominated, and these artists are recreating old sounds from like the 70s and the 80s and bringing that back after decades. And like they're not necessarily spending time to really dissect and give credit to new and interesting things, but just kind of what makes them, like we've said many times, like feel good. Like I'm guilty. I listened to the new Kylie Minogue album.
I admit it. I'm guilty.
Yeah. I was recommended the Miley Cyrus album and the Kylie Minogue album.
Yo, the Miley Cyrus album is fucking banging.
But Miley Cyrus she goes back to the 80s, like the 80s rock kind of sound.
Yes.
The Kylie Minogue album is very 70s disco. Like the album's called Disco. So it's these artists coming back and like reintroducing these sounds from 50 years ago.
Oh, and the Miley Cyrus one is so blatantly 80s.
Yes, that was her thing.
It's so like, 100%.
And which is fine. She has a good voice
like
for it, but I just don't.
Yeah.
it's just that's how people are starting to like kind of raise an eyebrow and be like, okay, really? Like we've heard all this sound, but it's nothing new. It's nothing interesting. It's nothing like creative. It's just like we said, recreating or, you know.
I mean, I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. I understand the point and the thought process for sure. I don't know that because there for me, like even listening to that, you know, the Miley Cyrus stuff compared to, you know, other 80s, you know, female led rock, punk rock, would you say pop rock? I don't know.
I haven't heard it, so I don't know.
But I mean, even just because it's 2020 and just, you know, the studios are different, sounds are different. Like there is different elements to it. I totally understand what you're saying. Like it is different than something like, say, you know, The Weeknd, where it is a newer style, you know, a continuously built style, as opposed to, okay, now we went back and we're building again on something else. Like I totally know what you mean. It does seem like you said, somebody made a point of being like, I don't like this album, I don't want it to be nominated. Because The Weeknd is so right in public consumption that it is weird.
People like him. Well, the bigger controversy I think that I think a lot of people are upset about is that I don't know who votes or who decides these things, but like the voting body, they create these categories called urban categories, and that's where they just put all the black people. Like, and so it'll be like best album and then best urban album, best like pop album, best like new contemporary art. It's just like such a way to like segregate and divide the artists. And that's what I think people are rightfully upset about. And so I think like, it's just funny. Like, I don't know, in my opinion, you know, obviously, you know, we talk a lot about the Oscars and all that stuff. All award shows kind of aren't, they're not the be all end all. I think they're all kind of meaningless to a degree, but I feel like the Grammys are some of the worst. Like I feel like they have very little credibility compared to like the Emmys or the Tonys or even the Oscars.
See, like now I'm getting upset as we talk about it because I haven't really thought about any of this, and I'm like, you know what, this does seem racist as fuck.
It is,
and now I'm annoyed.
It's like
now
really
I'm like,
ridiculous.
wait, why didn't The Weeknd get nominated? I mean, I like The Weeknd. I really liked his last album. I haven't listened to this one yet, but like, yeah, what
do
the
the
fuck?
deep dive and then come back to us next week.
But I think there was there's another element here. I think I can't remember what it was, but he endorsed something or. Like nothing negative, but they were pissed off at him about something. Like there's another element. Here,
that's what my question is.
No, like the Grammy, like whoever, like that's I can't remember.
But like that's what I'm asking. Like because like for the Academy, it's like you have to be invited into the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences, right? So it's actors, directors, screenwriters. So like who for Grammy, is it just producers and music? Is it the same thing? Do you have to get invited? Is it record producers? Because then of course like it doesn't matter. But like I don't know, it's like when you're looking down the list and it's like, oh, Yummy by Justin Bieber's nominated for a bunch of shit, then it doesn't matter. Your award show is no credibility.
Even more interesting in that, you know, Justin Bieber was like, because they put him in all the pop categories, and he's like, look, I pick what I'm doing very specifically. I made this album as a R&B album, and I told you guys that.
But that's the category that all the black people get nominated for. So it's really
this is even
up.
more. So he just came out being like, "This is bullshit. Like I do this very specifically. You know, I'm choosing what I'm doing." And they like apologize profusely and all this, but you know, he's nominated in all these other categories.
But yeah, no,
but
I mean,
it's the other side of that coin, 100%. Right?
Well, and it's funny because the movie we're talking, The Elephant Man. In terms of the Oscars, like they didn't have a makeup and special effects, makeup and hairstyle like Oscar that year. They created it the year after because there was such an uproar of like, why the hell did Christopher Tucker not get an award for this? Like, oh, we don't have a category for it. Because before The Elephant Man, there wasn't really, you could look at all the movies and there could be some instances of like, oh yeah, that's really cool makeup, but nothing to the extent of like what he did to bring forth, you know, John Merrick on screen. And so it's like things like that where it's, you know, now they have something. So that, yes, it's nice to be recognized for your work, of course, you know, and I, for sure, as in terms of the Oscars, I think they've gotten slightly better over the last couple of years, but that's why I chose my words carefully. I didn't want to say just outright better, but
Green Book won a couple of years ago. We can't
that's
forget.
True. But Parasite won.
Yeah, they bounced back super hard for sure.
Wait, sorry, what's wrong? What's wrong with Green Book?
It's bad.
Oh, okay.
Have you seen it? Mm-mm. Then yeah, trust. It's like the epitome of like it's a movie that is supposed to make white people feel good about, you know, oh yeah, I know racism is bad. It's just so poorly written and it's a joke. The fact that won Best Picture is a joke.
Well, the Academy disagrees with you once again.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying that they have no credibility.
But yeah, no. So like, there's a level of like, it would be nice to get an award, but at the same time, understanding that it's all subjective. Like, it's not, it's if they truly wanted to have that credibility and that stance, like, it's like there's a lot of movies that you have to watch and really sit down and pick apart. And like, we have this podcast, and I'm really grateful that we can sit down and talk movies and see different kind of things and go about it in a way that's not just like, oh, that's bad, oh, that's good, or I like that, or whatever. But it's more of like, okay, then compared to these other movies that he's done or things like that, we can kind of like scale it and
or not even making it black and white, right? Like, what elements of the movie did you like? I actually did find that whole part of the Elephant Man documentary really interesting, where they were talking about the decision to go in black and white and not shoot in color
stock,
black and color stock film and take it off. Then just be like, no, we're just doing black and white.
I mean, yeah, I think it adds. I mean, should we just talk about the Elephant Man then? I guess.
Yeah, let's do, like, I mean, I was just kind of like,
the only other thing I wanted to say was, I feel like pretty big news about I think the first Academy Award nominated actor just came out as
let's
trans.
Definitely talk about this.
And I think I read that J.K. Rowling threw away her Inception Blu-ray after that.
Oh my god,
that's a good joke. That's a good joke.
She was like, I have to destroy my collector's edition of X-Men: The Last Stand.
I like that the shot was on J.K. Rowling and was very supportive of Elliot. I like that whole joke.
Right? Elliot Page. Yeah,
it is Elliot. Right?
Yeah, and then you watch like, or not watch, but then you read all like, I was like kind of ready for, I don't know what I was ready for, but online, it seems like they're getting a lot of support online.
Yeah, which is good. Which is good to see.
I'm sure there's dicks out there.
Yeah,
I'm sure that we're in a little bit of a vacuum, but Josh,
I'm sure there are dicks out there too.
I didn't even do that. That was funny.
It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny. There are dicks out there. Yes, there are. I can point you to them.
What's going to be really interesting is that, so he's still playing Vanya, right?
Yeah, in Umbrella Academy, and they went back and redid all the credits for their old episodes.
Amazing.
Oh, really?
And not awesome. Not just every movie that he's been in.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, Netflix went all the way through.
We'll see if it's performative. We'll see how they continue to go forward.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's
great stuff.
Willing to give them the benefit of the doubt for sure.
But what's going to be really interesting, I mean, I love the fact that, I mean, this is the first time that any of this has happened on such a big scale, which is amazing. I mean, who doesn't like Elliot Page in the first place? You know what I mean? Like, the fucking most likable person ever. We've all known them since they were like, I mean,
yeah, a fan of their work. I didn't realize. Yeah, I saw a bunch of.
They were on Trailer Park Boys, and they're like 13.
I had no idea. Are they Canadian?
Yeah.
Oh, that's why are all the best people Canadian? It really makes me mad.
just chill up here, you know.
Okay. All right.
No, it's honestly, like, I think it's congratulations to Elliot and being able to like live his best truth in life and finally being able to come out. Essentially,
yeah, I think
for me, I'm kind of on Caleb. Like, I love all the support. I love, because there's a lot of backlash. There's a lot of people, the time old saying people fear what they don't know, or they discriminate against what they don't quite understand. And the transgender community still has a lot of we have a lot of work to do in terms of supporting them and making sure that they're ushered in as well as, gay men, lesbians, bisexual, whoever have you. And so this is a really big step. I would love to see a year from now, or even, we were saying, the different, if he keeps, working, he will obviously keep working, but I'm saying it'll be interesting to see what parts he takes on, what casting directors think, you know what I mean?
I would guess, and I think you guys would probably agree, that he's going to work. I mean, not that he's never not worked in 20 something years. They're, always on something, but I would guess he's going to work way bigger project. I mean, again, there's not much, they've been doing everything this whole time, fucking Inception.
It would be fucking
so there's not
dumb of studios to not try to leap at the chance of earning some goodwill by
right.
And they're also very talented,
incredible actor, so proven. I mean, also Umbrella Academy up until Queen's Gambit was the #1 show on Netflix. Yeah. So it already, it's going to be really interesting because now, right, like the Scarlett Johansson doing that movie where she was going to play like the first
trans man or
trans
something.
whatever. Well, that's conversation's kind of done.
Well, she should be able to play any role. She should be able to play a tree, she said.
Yeah,
I
she's
actually
an
the way
actress.
she yeah,
We're
but did
talking
you
about
actually
Scarlett
read the
Johansson,
whole?
right?
Yeah.
Yes, did you read the whole interview? Because it wasn't. She was like that was very weirdly pulled. I had been asked a question about what do you think is like the future and the goal of acting. She was like, the goal eventually is that everybody can play anything. And then like, so that there's that quote. And then there's like after, but like representation right now is super important. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, what a dick move.
Yeah.
On the news
I mean, I asked her
articles,
that
you know?
question in
I know.
our
I remember.
in our
I was super nervous for you.
why?
Oh, for Inside the Actors
In the
Studio.
yeah, I couldn't remember the name of the fucking show.
Because I'm pretty sure you came up to me before and was like, yo, I have a question. I don't know if it's going to go over well.
She,
All
I mean,
right.
to her credit, she responded very like professionally and had and they, of course, they didn't air it. They cut it out of the
No.
final episode, which is frustrating because they'll air people being like, "What's your favorite movie you've worked on?" As if that is like at all what the show's supposed to be about.
But it was a good question, you know, and it was interesting. I wonder if it was like her publicity teams or theirs that pulled it, but
I'm sure it was Bravo being like the fucking like old women who watch our network don't care about this. Like this is not
definitely
something.
editor's choice.
Yeah, this
for
is not
sure.
something that. But yeah, no, I think it's cool. I'm interested to like see what their career does next,
Mhm.
and it is. I mean, I think people kind of there's like a buzzword, like people are constantly being like, oh, like actors and actresses, like anytime they like lose a little bit of like weight for a role or they do something that's like outside of normal people's comfort zone, it's like, oh, they're so brave and this is so powerful. But this is like actually a very
yeah,
brave
this is not
thing
that.
to do.
Yes.
This is actually
Right.
like, and in their post they go on as like, yeah, like I'm putting my life in danger by choosing to live who I am. And so it's really stunning. I think it is a really big
Yeah.
moment, and I'm glad that it's been met with mostly positive reaction and reception.
and a pioneering moment, you know, in that what happens now.
I think the
is-
only I can think of like Caitlyn Jenner is maybe the only other high profile case,
Yeah.
and it's and
that
it's still,
came with so many other caveats.
yeah,
and,
it's very different. in a
I
lot
mean,
of
there's-
ways.
very different.
The actress Cox from Orange is the
Laverne,
New
but
Black,
Laverne
but
Cox
she was already
already
trained.
out when
Yeah.
she that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
when she was famous,
Yeah.
which is not to diminish what she
Of course.
her experience,
Yeah.
because she's obviously
I mean,
very
but-
talented.
But again, I think one of the major points is, I mean, Elliot Page is somebody we all grew up with.
Yeah,
With her,
seeing-
with him formerly known as Ellen, you know, and Juno and stuff like that. And if you're not,
I mean, how big of a hit was Juno? That was
it was crazy.
that's what she was nominated for.
Yeah.
Or they were nominated for an Academy Award. But it's interesting because the history of the, like forcibly outed as on the set of X-Men 3. So to be able to then do this on their own terms and like have control of their narrative, I think is very powerful.
Yeah.
Fuck Brett Ratner, man. Fuck that guy. But
yeah, I want to find out more about that because I feel like how has that not been a bigger thing?
because people didn't care
Yeah.
about any of this shit until Me
Like,
Too.
yeah. When did
Yeah,
when did X Men
but
3
now
come
we
out?
care
Like 2000?
about everything.
2006 or 7
Yeah,
or whatever.
like
Brett Ratner went down. He it was in the news and
Did
all
he?
this
Okay.
has happened.
Well,
but-
the other thing I was going to say though is I'm going to lose my mind when like shitty people start getting upset because he's still playing Vanya. And it's like, no, that is the absolute just so
Well, yeah, but
past
Well,
the
what do you
line of,
think?
just
like,
What do you
don't give
think?
it a-
Do you think that they're going to address it in the universe of the show, or do you think Elliot's just going to continue to play Vanya as like the character? Written?
That's what
I'm
I would
curious
guess. Yeah,
to know what they're going to do.
that's what I would guess, and I like think that's amazing. You know,
I'm just wondering how you tackle
no,
something
I-
like this.
from what it sounds like, from my understanding, which I think is very cool, is he's just going to continue playing Vanya the way that Vanya, like the character is, you know,
Right.
unaffected by, you know, the character unaffected by
Mhm.
by life decisions, which I think is fantastic. But you know, there's going to be shitty people out there being like,
Of course.
no, you should. And it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
fuck you,
Yeah, no, I
fuck
know.
you.
But then you know, it's interesting.
Well, let's hope enough people who matter listen and take heed and like allow them to like have their space and not make it a thing. You know what I mean? I remember it's like Sam Smith or whatever, the guy or whoever the first like linebacker, the D end or whatever that got drafted from Missouri, who's openly gay.
Right.
And
Yes.
like,
Yes.
and like the NFL felt pressured to like draft him, but then he just didn't have a good combine. Like he wasn't the best
That's the thing.
player.
The problem.
And then they
right.
the backlash of like, because he's openly gay, can the gay identifying men play football? But then you also have the first woman to kick one of the kickers on Vanderbilt in the SEC. They have a female kicker that's starting. So like, it's different, because then I also was thinking, in terms of, this is all sports now randomly, but like, it's when I'm thinking about the level of competitiveness in football, it's like if women were to be allowed to play football, it's like what positions would be their key things, and it would be the kicker or special teams kind of stuff, because just for the sheer amount of like putting a however heavy woman, no matter how stacked she is, against a 300-pound 6'5" lineman, like rushing at you, like that's just not.
If you were gonna fill out all the positions,
are you saying women can't be 6'5", Josh? That's so
co-ed
oh my god, that
They're not co-ed sports.
Look at him go. So yeah. Anyway, so like there's been some moments. But I hope for Elliot's sake that coming out on his own terms and with his own power is very empowering, and I hope that that helps curb some of those voices that you just need to. If people are going to be negative about it, then they don't need that time and space. But unfortunately, we have social media, so they're going to have their soapbox. They're going to have their echo chamber.
It's a vocal minority, but it is a minority.
Yeah,
I think that's something that's important to keep in mind.
But no, it's really great, and it's going to be very interesting to see how that the positive outfall from it is going to be really, really nice to see.
Yeah. There's like just so many great tweets, but one of my favorite ones is like, now we have like the first retroactive like gay kiss in a Nolan movie with him and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And it seems like all of people that they've worked with before has been super positive, and it's just good. It just made me feel good.
Yay, good feelings.
A nice feeling in a shitty black hole of a fucking year.
Yeah. Speaking of black holes, how about Victorian London in 1886 for? They don't really quite
1886 for
86, 84. I went backwards, but they don't actually. I don't think they actually mention the year at all.
They say Victorian England. I know that the real John Merrick died in like 1901 or 2. Yeah. So I'm assuming it's late 1800s. Yeah.
So this week, the major movie that we watched, I picked, like said before, David Lynch's Elephant Man. I have never seen it. I got turned on by it by my boyfriend Ryan, who bought the Criterion Collection DVD Blu-ray. And I was very, very, very impressed with the story, with the performances in the movie. I was very curious in terms of the person, John Merrick. He is called the Elephant Man due to some extremely rare skin disease, not skin disease, but like a bone tissue growth kind of disease. They're still working on like a proper name for it. And I didn't write it down, so I can't actually say it for you guys. But, a handful of people have had it. Like, he was the most extreme case back in the late 1800s in London, England. And, I look forward to having our discussion about it. But what did you guys think of the movie? Have you guys seen it before? Is this the first time you all seeing it?
Yeah, I had not seen it before. I didn't know a lot about it. We talked about it a little bit last week on the podcast, but man, I haven't been that emotionally moved by a movie in a while. It's been a weird year. Mm-hmm. I have not been open, I would say, while watching stuff. I've been watching things more critically. But this just fucking hit me.
You didn't feel emotionally moved by Dogtooth last week?
Oh my God.
Oh, I did feel emotionally moved, and that, just not the way that you wanted me to. Yeah, emotionally moved to frustration and anger. No, but this just, went into it in a great way, being like David Lynch, amazing actors everywhere. Obviously, it's supposed to be incredible. Also, sorry, right off the bat, did anyone else keep thinking Anthony Hopkins in the very first scene when he's walking around looked exactly like Michael Sheen?
Yeah, I did. I did actually
Right?
think about that. Well, I was like, oh my god, he was so handsome. Look at him.
For a second, I was like, wait, how old is Michael Sheen? He looks the exact same. How is this possible? And then I was like, oh, fuck, it's Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah.
But sorry, I digress.
I think it's the black hair, the way they like slicked back his hair.
It was the
And the
beard,
beard,
too.
It's the beard, yeah.
It was the beard, yeah. But you know what, man? I loved it. The beginning was a little bit slow for me, but once John Hurt really came in, I loved it. It was simple. It was well done. It was beautifully shot. It's a straight to the heart story. And I mean, they just make their point incredibly well done. I thought so.
Yeah, I hadn't seen it before. And I wasn't like, I don't want to say concerned. That's not the right word, but I definitely was like a little skeptical going in because I feel like you watch something like Eraserhead or like Inland Empire or Mulholland Drive. And so, like Lynch is like this like very avant-garde experimental filmmaker. So I was like wondering how somebody like that with that reputation tackles like this story. And I was wondering if it was going to be like a horror thing, like exploitative. Like I was just like, what is this going to be? I had no idea what it was going to be, but I was really pleasantly surprised. I think just my favorite aspect of it was like how empathetic it was.
Yeah.
It was such like a beautifully, like you guys have already said, but it was like such a beautifully like told. I wasn't expecting it was just like a really well done, straightforward narrative, like a drama. And obviously there's like moments sprinkled throughout of like that Lynchian, like experimental, like photography and all that stuff. That's
the
still there.
overlays, like the
overlays and like the elephant and everything and the woman screaming. So like that's all there. But I was really blown away at how kind of a movie it is. Like, it's just such like a generous, like you can tell he really cared about like respecting this man and his life and like telling his story. And I thought that's my favorite aspect of it. I wasn't expecting to be moved emotionally, really.
Same.
Obviously like it's got a great atmosphere. All the acting's fantastic. I love the score, but I just, the treatment of the subject matter is my favorite aspect of it for sure.
I also like that again. I mean, whatever, halfway, 3/4 through the movie, when bad things started happening, I was like, where are we going to go with this? And, spoilers, but I loved the way it ended.
Yeah. I mean, it's a gorgeous, it's great. It's a great movie. I think we all agree.
We mentioned before about the black and white, it was a choice to do the black and white because so the makeup, the Christopher Tucker, who did the prosthetics and the makeup for John Merrick and John Hurt to portray, they actually got, the real bust or whatever, like the death cast to like go off of from the actual person. And it's fucking nuts. And so it like 7 hours of makeup, every other day. It's like, and this is in 1980. So this is like before like the progression that we've like the advances in the makeup and like shit like that nowadays. It's like they were just developing all this stuff. So the fact that you put all of this on John Hurt and he comes in and the first time, and they did something very clever. They did, they didn't reveal the full. I mean, obviously you saw it. You saw the full body, makeup and things like that. But you weren't. He wasn't fully in the light. Yeah.
It was really well done. I really enjoyed that.
But they did it in black and white because if you look at the color stills that Christopher is taking with like the progress of the makeup, with the flesh tone that it was, like it's kind of gnarly, to be honest with you. Like looking at that would have freaked me out, and that it would have been a monster movie, not necessarily like a human.
Which
movie.
Everybody, when you watch like the behind the scenes stuff, that was like what they didn't want. Like nobody wanted it to be that, so they took like every precaution to make sure people wouldn't like react with like to look at it like that. I mean, I was like, I honestly like, it's crazy because if you look at like, if you just like Google like pictures of it, it looks goofy. Like it's fucking this massive head and like the weird like lip. It's like so easy to have that come off as humorous, but in the context of the movie, it feels completely natural and realistic. And a lot of that, the makeup's fantastic, but I feel like a lot of that is also John Hurt's performance.
Oh yeah,
Like he's just so, what a fucking incredible performance.
well, he still has to physicalize like this man,
and the way that he speaks, and you hear him like gurgling because he's like choking on his spit, and like it's just so, I was fucking blown away.
Yeah.
Well, did you see in the little interviews in the documentaries where they were saying how, you know, he didn't realize till years later, but they were trying to like pitch him the part because, you know, for all of them, they were like, well, the actor's not going to be seen. And he at one point turns to like Mel Brooks or David Lynch, I can't remember which one, was like, don't tell my agent, but I would do this for free.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, and he was saying like after they gave him the part and he walked out of the room, like as he's walking out, they started to notice that he was
already starting
like,
to
doing the character work. And that's what I think like this movie displays just quite simply. Like it doesn't hide behind like fast cuts or, you know, action sequences.
Yeah.
It's all these characters and these actors in scenes together acting with each other. Like the moment that stuck out for me is at the very beginning when Anthony Hopkins or Dr. Treves, like sees John Merrick for the first time, and it's just this look on his face. And mind you, I watched this movie the second time last night, and the reason I'm so enthralled by it is like a movie in black and white that's this kind of paced for 2 hours, you know, a drama. I was just as hooked in those scenes. Like it grabbed me as much as it did the first time. But like his look of, you look at Anthony Hopkins and that tear, right, that he has, that wasn't planned. You know, David Lynch was like, we had this long shot and then he brought that. It's funny because if you watch it again, you could definitely see him working on it, building this moment. But like you can see the terror, you can see the awe, you can see the empathy, you can see all these different emotions in his eyes and it's just in that one look. And I just was like, you know, good for you, Tony.
Okay, I really wanted to. I'm so glad you brought this scene up because I've been thinking about that exact shot for, you know, a full day now. And I was really interested to see what your guys' thoughts are on that because I watched that now, right? And I love the shot. I love what Anthony Hopkins is doing, and I know that for the general population, when you watch that, like that's one of those scenes that makes Anthony Hopkins amazing in the movie. For me watching it, I'm like, that's the easiest thing he's done the entire movie as an actor. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's Anthony Hopkins. Of course he can cry on command. Like, it's not hard for him. He's just staring down the barrel. Like and again, it's not taking away anything from the work. I just know I can't help but look at a shot like that as pure, like, okay, cool. That's just him doing the work. Like, I don't even think he had to do a lot of work.
Yeah, I mean, the direction is he steps out of the shadows and he just stares in awe of this man, and then he could do all the work inside, you know.
But you guys know what I'm saying? I know that's the perfect shot for the movie. I know he's doing it at the very best that, you know, any actor can kind of do it at that moment. It just feels numb to me as an actor watching it, just knowing, okay, that's the easiest thing Anthony Hopkins is doing in the movie. Does that make sense? Do you guys know what I'm saying? I'm just having a problem with moments like that where. And then for like me as an actor, it's making me feel less because that's easy for me. So it makes me feel less like impressed by it. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay.
I guess like when I watched it, I was like very taken into the story. Like I understand what you're saying conceptually, but I wasn't thinking about it in terms of like the work that I fully believed that he was this doctor and that everybody, you know, I was just totally dropped in to the world.
Well, see, that's exactly what I'm asking. I want to make sure that this is a me problem because as you know, like I get scenes for like that all the time type of thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, I've started to feel like, is this too, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Wait,
but then seeing that,
people give you scenes where you just stand in awe and cry?
No, but like a lot of crying things or things like that.
Sure. Okay.
Well, yeah, our whole program was built on the back of like emotional like releases and build-ups. So I totally understand what you're saying. For me,
Josh, watched me cry for hours. How could that be a surprise?
For me, I didn't have that problem with this movie specifically, just because like from the first shot of like Hopkins in like the London market, like with all of the stuff going on in the circus, and like there's such a sense of atmosphere, and there's such a sense of like I'm just like transported to the time and place. I obviously it's like Anthony Hopkins is one of the most like recognizable like actors in the world, so yeah. I there is of course some level where I'm like, okay, I recognize you as Hannibal Lecter, but for like John Hurt totally disappeared into it.
No.
And I think that's the difference. You know, we were talking briefly, Josh and I, earlier. It's like crazy how like, you know, John Hurt got nominated, but Anthony Hopkins didn't. And I think it's the difference between like Anthony Hopkins giving a really, really incredible performance and then John Hurt transforming into a character.
Yeah. And like, I think that just depends on what else was nominated that year. Remember, like, who else was nominated?
Which was interesting.
Anthony Hopkins getting nominated or not.
I mean, he lost to De Niro in the Best Actor
in Raging
category.
Bull, which is another movie we've already talked about.
John Hurt was nominated for Best Actor.
Yeah.
Not Best Supporting. Wow.
No.
Okay,
I mean, it's his movie.
Obviously,
he doesn't show up for a little bit, but it's the Elephant Man.
Yeah, it's true.
Which I know what you mean, though, because obviously a lot of it's told through the lens of the doctor being like, and I love that scene that he had, too, like towards the middle or maybe like 2/3 of the way through, where he's just like sitting, Anthony Hopkins is sitting like despondent in his room, and his wife comes in and it's like, what's wrong? He's like, is this okay? Like, what am I doing? I turned him into another freak. Like, is this ethical?
But it's like, I've been thinking about whatever the guy's name is. I don't think we're that different.
But
just to be clear, sorry, my point was not like, I thought Anthony Hopkins is absolutely incredible at it. My point is, I think I'm not seeing things properly. Like a scene like that, I'm getting taken too out of it. So I was confirming for myself.
Well, you go.
I
think you go right into the technical aspect of it. You know, like
right
the first
away,
time
as soon as I saw
the first time I watched it, I didn't have that issue. The second time I watched it, I was looking for different things, and that's I was looking specifically where that moment was, where he either turned it on or where he made that choice to like cry or whatever. I was specifically looking for that type of thing,
which you can't normally do, right? But in a movie like this, which just has so many long shots, like you can kind of watch the craft happen. In other movies, when it's just like cutting back and forth, you never know. You build it in the edit. They could have spent all day, but like you're watching these actors really like experience emotion in real time, which I think is really amazing.
We only have the opportunity to even have this conversation about such a particular scene is because that push and shot is what, 15, 20 seconds?
Yeah, it's really
like
long.
Maybe even more than that. Like it's fantastic. Yeah, I just wanted to confirm because I immediately got taken out of it just into the work and like you said, just analyzing what happened. So I wanted to confirm with you guys that scene worked for you guys. You know what I mean? Because I'm having a gap in my own mind.
Yeah.
Because you saw what he saw. You know, as an audience viewing the movie, you knew exactly what he was going through with that one. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's interesting with John Hurt though. Like he was told that he wasn't going to win the Oscar because people didn't recognize
that
him.
Interview, yeah.
And how crazy is that? Like people are so stupid.
Exactly what we were talking about earlier. It's all awards shows. They don't mean anything. It's just who spends the most money campaigning to like get. You know, it's not. Oh, this. I guess this is the best actor in the year. It doesn't matter. Not that it doesn't do good things for your career if you win. Not saying anyone wouldn't want to win, but it's like. He knows. I mean, he talked about it. He was like, I don't care if I win the trophy. I know that he did like, that's one of the best performances I've ever seen, I think, on film.
Yeah. Like, also getting nominated is such a huge thing.
It's just such an honor to be nominated. This is what they all say. I don't know. That's what everybody says.
I don't really, I mean, to be honest, like with how it affects your career, it doesn't seem like it's that big of a difference. It seems like being nominated is a bigger thing.
You get more money if you get the award.
I'm assuming if you're a winner, you can like you add a couple zeros to your paycheck.
I'm pretty sure that's what happens when you get nominated.
No,
too.
I know what you're saying. Yeah. I know what you're saying.
You know? Like I think that
but who doesn't want to win?
Well, yeah, of course. But it seems like the nomination is the bigger jump, right? Because then you go from like the average pool of actors to Academy Award nominated.
It depends though, because you see sometimes like if you even people who win sometimes if you don't book something right soon. Right. You can kind of fade into obscurity a little bit. That happens a lot too. How
many stories have we heard about people who won? And I mean, to be fair, to be honest about it, very much more specifically, women who have won and then have been like blackballed for some weird fucking reason. It's like, you just won Best Actress. Somebody give her a fucking job. She's incredible.
Yeah.
It's just like, what the fuck?
Just off the top of my head, I mean, you know, Halle Berry wins. Her career goes in the fucking toilet. Adrian Brody wins. He doesn't do anything really interesting after that. Like, it happens a lot. No. But then But then sometimes, but obviously John Hurt before this was already like, oh, you're John Hurt. Like everybody knew he was the real deal anyway.
Well, in Britain, I don't know.
Fucking Alien was before this.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, and he's fucking.
When was 1984?
One of the most. Huh?
Never mind. I said when was 1984?
I don't know, Brandon.
I don't. When did the movie 1984? They made 1984 in 1984.
Yes, I mean, you are. Why else would it? That's of course.
It was a book, Caleb. Okay,
written way before that.
Made it at any time.
It was written. It was a book that was written. No, listen
Josh,
to me.
I'm not the one. Tell him he's being ridiculous.
I'm not being ridiculous. You're not letting me fucking articulate my point. You write a book that takes place in the far dystopian future of 1984. Yeah. It's a very famous book that has many decades to become famous. So you're a fucking movie producer. Like, oh, what year should we make the movie 1984? I don't know. Let's make it in 1977 for no fucking reason.
1994.
Obviously, you make it in 1984. You goon.
All right, that's super fair.
Yeah, it is.
It also would be really funny because, like,
if it was made in like 1983.
Yeah, or just like
we cannot wait. We have the perfect
we
cast.
Just, like,
we have the rights. We have the studio space. We have to make it now. Anyway, so no, I don't. What are you even fucking talking about?
We were talking about because John Hurt wasn't recognizable in The Elephant Man, so that's why he didn't win the Oscar. But also, I mean, he lost it to Robert De Niro, which we know did great.
As Jake LaMotta.
He probably would have lost anyway. Yeah.
So but
arguable, yeah.
But going back to like the performances and like having, so David Lynch is like a young director, so to speak, at the time. Like he had just, his only other feature was Eraserhead.
What a weird follow up.
Yeah, and the
like,
fact
they're just
that
so different.
Not only did Jonathan Stanger, who's the producer that Sanger, who like, I think the story was, and they've said this multiple times in a lot of the supplemental footage material on the Criterion channel, is that like, you know, his babysitter's boyfriend for his children had like the script. He's like, oh, hey, read this. And of course, everybody has the script in LA. So he's like, okay, whatever. And then he finally reads it and he's like, oh shit, okay. And then he saw Elephant Man, or he saw Eraserhead, thought of David Lynch, that, you know, that he could do this. So they went to Mel Brooks. Mel Brooks, you know, found the story, saw Eraserhead, and then was just like in love with David Lynch, but also didn't put his name
how smart is that?
On the project, because Mel Brooks was known to producing comedies.
I just love watching him talk when in that interview where he was like, and I saw Eraserhead, and I was like, I love you, you madman. And then, yeah, but it was very smart. Yeah, you're right. To be like, okay, if I put my name on this movie, everybody's going to come and laugh at it because they're going to be disappointed because they're expecting a comedy.
Right. They're just going to have an expectation that there's some edge of comedy,
which is so like smart, and to have that foresight to be like, I'm making this
movie,
awareness. My name is going to be nowhere on it because it's not about the credit. It's just about like facilitating this artistry, which is so. Yeah. And again, I feel like the fact that it was such a straightforward narrative, like if you watch Eraserhead, it's like so completely on the opposite end of the spectrum from this movie. And so like right away, you're seeing David Lynch have such a range to be able to like do so many different things. Like, what an incredible director. And to have the people like to have the confidence to give him the story.
Yeah, and like he said crazy. That he had like, he was asked like if he'd like talked to the actors, right? And he said he didn't do much talking, but he got better as like the filming process went on. And because for us, like we're trained as directors at the Actors Studio Drama School to talk the same language as the actors so that we can communicate with you guys and get the performances we need. But I guess when you're working with people like Anthony Hopkins and John Gielgud, you don't really need to.
Like you're like, I mean, you have to keep in mind, like, so his right out of graduate school, he makes Eraserhead, and then he's directing the most famous actors in the world in his next movie. Like, I would be fucking nervous too. Go up to Anne Bancroft and give her a note. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? You know. So the fact that but then like. Obviously, because they're, English, I mean, John Gielgud and Tony Hopkins and John Hurt, like they're all like some of the best actors, and they're trained in England. So they, of course, are like, okay, we're like going to be professional.
They're very serious,
very serious, and like give you the respect of your position and everything. Mm-hmm. So I feel like if he had done that, it just seems like such a perfect storm to have been able to like make this movie happen. It seems like lightning in a bottle. Like,
and they said everything. They didn't advertise very much for it. There was a lot of it was word of mouth. Like they only had a limited, like they had a premiere in like LA or in like New York or London or what, like very limited. Because now people just fucking like
wide release,
scattershot, like wide release. Every theater has these movies. Yeah. But no, it took a little bit to percolate because people had to see it and then they talk about it and then. It made 5 times the budget in the box office, which is crazy.
Now, interestingly enough, we're back to a period of that. Word of mouth is so much bigger now. Stuff goes up on streaming, and you just miss it because there's a billion fucking
so
things.
Many movies,
but then you hear about something, and sometimes it takes like a couple weeks for that thing to pick up, or it's been on Netflix for months and nobody's seen it, and then it just boom.
Yeah. yeah, the way that people find out about things is very different. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I very rarely read review, like print reviews. Like, I don't follow. Who gives a shit what the fucking?
The only reviews I see are yours, Juliet's, and Chad's.
That's hilarious. But yeah, like it's you have with the internet, it's so much easier to find like hidden gems or like obscure stuff. But the fact that this movie came out in 1980 and had to rely on just people being fucking excited about it, I think that speaks to just how different it was and how it managed to like hit a note that other films weren't really capturing. Like,
Yeah.
obviously Raging Bull we've covered. People were seeing The Shining, but everybody fucking hated it when it came out. So it's not like people were talking about it positively. So then this fucking guy who I'm assuming most people hadn't even seen Eraserhead. And
Right.
then like at that point, and then he's just like this random person directs this story that no one had really heard of before. And it's one of the biggest movies of the year. It's fucking crazy.
Just and it should be. It's fucking beautiful.
It's amazing. I really like it a lot.
fucking beautiful.
I want to go into the most kind of, because if when you like paint the dramatic structure of like a film or a play or whatever, you have these climaxes and valleys or peaks and valleys or whatever. But like for me, what was great too is like, how Caleb, you mentioned last week about like seeing the seams of the creation, or what is the
seams of its construction.
of his
I think I said,
construction, so like, you start, the character starts at a low point, works his way up, gets to the pinnacle of like society and class to his extent, and then he essentially gets ripped right back down, with that party or that drunken fiasco, which paired with John Morris's like score and his like really eerie kind of circusy carnival music. Like, I was so disturbed by that scene.
Yeah.
Like it hurt like to watch for sure.
It was very uncomfortable.
And
Oh yeah.
the fact that he goes right back to the festival or like the carnival afterwards, and he's like dying and sick or whatever. But that going from that though, and the way he fights back in that moment in the bathroom, when he yells that he is not an animal, he's a human being, he's a man.
I'm a man. Fucking chills, man. I can't-
Chills, because John Hurt built to that moment.
Yeah, he earned that moment.
What's that?
He earned that moment.
He earned that moment to just finally stand down and be like, I'm tired of being like, I am a person, treat me with respect. And then going to the theater, and then, he hits that pinnacle again. He like gets back, and then he, goes to sleep like a normal person. For the
But
first time.
the vulnerability that builds into it, like the couple scenes before when he meets the doctor's wife, and he just breaks down.
Yeah.
And then
That did kind of make me laugh. Not anything to do with him and his work, but just like, because what he says is like, I never expected to be treated so kindly by such a beautiful woman, and it's like, all right, easy, man, easy. That's my wife, man.
no, but like
relax.
But it just did me so like it was so
No, it was very powerful, of
heart
course.
shattering.
But like
and just, like,
she looks at Anthony Hopkins. She's like, what?
And then also, there's little moments like that when people realized his life.
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
empathy of the actors was unbelievable. I mean, the one scene who I don't know who the actor was. I'm sure you guys probably do, but the higher up doctor or the chief doctor guy.
That's John Gielgud.
That's John Gielgud.
Okay.
Cargom.
Cargom.
So that when he first, goes to meet him and he has the interview, and then they're like, he doesn't belong here. And then he starts reciting, the Bible.
Bible, yeah. Oh, I guess he is a person. He knows the
But
Bible.
when he comes down though, and the other guy is like, could you imagine what his life's been like? And the doctor's like, yeah, I think I
he's
can.
like,
He said,
no,
no, none of
no
us
fucking
can.
way. Yeah,
And it's just
really
like the
good,
way
that's
that-
a really good scene.
It just was like,
And they were
It-
all
I-
there and all like connected, and I just really really appreciated all of that. Even with
Yeah, it was
even with
beautiful.
Everybody took it seriously,
Wendy
yeah.
Hiller, the
Mother's
head.
Yeah,
Mother's head.
when he's like, you have to like be fucking nice to him, and she's like, I've been cleaning his fucking, I've been taking care of him.
Yeah.
Nobody fucking knows him better than me, so you can shut the
no,
fuck up about it. I was like,
she's
hell yeah,
and she-
hell yeah.
When that conversation starts, because she's like, why would you let them see him?
Mhm.
And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, they're just going in and laughing at him. They're not hiding their disdain for the way he looks. And he's, and he's like, what? You were not hiding your disdain. He's like, yeah, I cleaned him up. You know what I mean? It is another very beautiful moment
She's
where like she
the most
obviously
protective of him in
cares so
some
much.
ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, everybody brought their fucking A game. And this is like, yeah, it's just a great movie.
Great choice, man. Fuck. What a good
I
fucking
love
movie.
so speaking about though being taken out of it, Brandon, there is like an element as it went on, because so like you're watching Anthony Hopkins, who is great. He's a brilliant actor, but like he's known for being like he's very just playing a role in this movie, and like he's playing like a normal guy, and like in a lot of other of his most iconic roles, he's like characters, like he's very like crazy.
Yeah.
And so I'm waiting. It's like, okay, why would you hire Anthony Hopkins and not have him have a scene where he kind of goes nuts a little bit? And so I'm waiting for it, and then it happens when he gets the porter. He's like, he starts growling, he grabs him, like, yo, son of a bitch. I was like, yeah, there it is, Tony. And it's just like one scene that he lets himself get a little fucking crazy, and then he's back to being a grounded. And it's not that it was bad, but you are waiting for it. You know, it's like, where's the Hannibal Lecter moment? You know what I mean?
But it was even that, I think, though, you know, given what we know of Anthony Hopkins, I think even that was perfectly toned down. You know, it worked for the doctor, worked for the character.
It totally fit, but I still was like,
you're just waiting for that.
You're like fanboying. You're like, come on.
I was like, give me something, and then
that scene was really funny, because then the mother's head comes in and bashes.
Yeah, it was like a weird like slapstick comedy moment where, because he's like, the only person who could take me out is mother's head, and she just bunks him on the head with a. She's like,
there you go.
And he's like, there you go. I was like, all right, and it works, and it totally, I buy it. It's not distracting, but it's very like, it's such a weird moment to appear in this heart-wrenching thing. She like bops him on the head.
I think at the time when that comes in, the audience needs that reprieve.
No, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
you know, I think it was like really, because it's so heavy right at that moment. You don't know what's going on, and then the doctor's finally doing something active.
But then that's a good point, Brandon, because I was expecting it to be a lot more tonally just like dour and miserable. But because it's treated with such empathy, there is a lot of like lighthearted stuff. Like the middle of the movie is like, especially when Anne Bancroft, like the actress, is like talking to him and he's meeting all these people. There is a very like, it's like heartwarming. So I feel like the tonal balance is very, like, it is done very well. And I agree with you that it is a period of the movie that is very like intense and heavy. But I was expecting that to be the whole movie, and I was surprised that it wasn't. In a good way.
And what I thought was really cool, and specifically that, was that the scenes that were more intense because of the built up empathy. They were only more intense because at that point you give a shit. You really care about John, and you're like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy, the fucking, you know, zoo dude, or not zoo, the carnival dude. Yeah. And then the other guy, which is, he's just being a dick.
Yeah, the night guard, the night
porter, just looking for a way to make a quick buck.
But it's just, I think that's what's so special about this movie, is that it does not go down the easy path of, hey, this guy's life sucks and you should just feel bad for him. Yeah. It's building that up by
not melodramatic. It's
building it up by the relationships and the characters, and him building relationships with the characters, right? Absolutely. So it's, you know, with the nurse, who again we just talked about, but she starts off not very nice to him at all, and then she's very much like a mother to him, and just across the board.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's adapted from a couple of books, including some of the like the memoir or whatever of the doctor, right, from the 1800s. And you know, there was an interview with like the guy who runs the London Hospital Museum, where they house the bones, or I guess the bones are actually missing currently. But
really,
yeah, apparently, yeah, because these interviews were like aired like in the early 2000s. So like since then, I think his bones actually are. They're trying to find him.
Fucking hilarious.
So somebody lost him.
Who lost the bones?
But he said that like the thing about the movie, like a lot of things were somewhat accurate, but they did adapt a lot of it. Like he had, you know, John Merrick as an actual person had more control over his life. Like he chose to go to the freak
Joseph
show.
Merrick in real life.
Joseph Merrick.
Yeah. And that was the one thing I didn't like about the movie. If I had to pick one thing, it's that like I watched the story and I'm like, wow, this is really powerful. And then you learn that they like really embellished a lot of stories of facts about his life to make it more like of a movie.
And like a movie,
And you have to do that, I understand. Like when you dramatize stuff, you're making a movie to make it more. But like, yeah, he had like a normal childhood.
Yeah, he had
went to school.
And he
knew how to read and write.
And he chose to do
He chose to go to the hospital, and he chose to go to the freak show to make money.
That's how he makes money.
Like, and I understand when that maybe would make it less of a dramatic, interesting movie. But it's it's just like. Oh,
yeah, it's
a
different movie.
Just like made up.
But his mother. But the interesting thing, because when I first saw the opening with like the elephants and his mother screaming, it's like I was very like thrown off. Like, what does that have to do with it? But apparently, his mother actually did have like a run in with like an escaped elephant or whatever at like a circus or something.
That is fucking wild.
Like, and it's just kind of like, oh, okay. So some people think that like, obviously this isn't true because it's a genetic disease, but like they thought that was the cause of why he was deformed as a person.
Because she was like late into her pregnancy.
Yeah.
So that they was like, oh, well, she got trampled by an elephant, so that's why he's so fucked up.
Right.
Yeah, they didn't just call him the Elephant Man for no reason.
But I thought,
which like it's a fair jump.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But going back, it's like so the David Lynch kind of aesthetic were those three parts, right? It's the beginning kind of overlay, it's the middle dream sequence where he looks into this mirror and it's like overlay of his reflection and the elephant and his mom screaming again, and then the ending, which I would love. My last little thing is like what your guys' interpretation of the ending is, because for me it would have been very nice because what's going to happen. He finally looks up at the drawing because he's always said he's never been able to sleep like a normal person, and he just got done going to the theater and reaching the pinnacle of his social class of what his experience in life was going to be. He's as normal feeling, I would like to think, as he will ever be. Because he'll always be an outsider. He can't be cured. It's just going to be his thing. So the last thing on that list for me is that sleeping. But he knows if he does so, he will asphyxiate and die. And so having him lay down, and you see his eyes move, kind of making that decision, and then he finally closes his eyes, and it pans left to the cathedral that he just got done. He just finished, and then it like kind of goes up, and then all of a sudden it's like a fucking like night sky, starry space thing with like it's like zooming, and then the overlay of the mom saying this like poem or something that never die. And
reminded me of Dune.
It's like Dune, and like you wait a little bit longer, and then the princess comes on and starts telling Dune.
Yeah.
But I would have loved
the prequel
it.
to Dune. Yeah. Well, I guess no, it was just the first movie.
Oh my
Dune's
god!
the
If there was a post-credit scene here and it's just the girl from Dune starts her narration, I would have lost my fucking mind.
6 stars.
I just want to make that edit.
As a director, the choice to kind of do the fault, like for me, a fade to black and just the credits would have sufficed for me. I would have been like awesome, but we always are told this like double ending, right? This double button. That's a button, the little fade to black, but then he keeps going with this whole little epilogue type of thing, and then it's the credits. There's that feeling of, oh wait, what's this?
I mean,
okay,
it's that Lord of the Rings 3 button up full piece suit.
Nah.
Does that makes sense? But the double ending, the double button.
No, totally.
I mean,
that's what I felt.
It's Lynch, and he just like I just feel like he cannot help himself. Like it's he makes this. He's this whole movie. He's like very restrained, but at the very end, he's like I gotta just.
He goes to Mel Brooks and he's like, guys, I have
to do what I need to do for the movie, for the film.
Well, sorry, real quick with that impression. Did you guys get the chance to watch that clip I sent earlier this morning?
Yeah, you
I
showed that to me before. You're obsessed.
Oh,
with
did
it,
I? Well, it's just David Lynch in it is fucking amazing.
I mean, he's funny. Like I didn't laugh at it.
I like the clip that I sent a little more where he's like, you think that in 1,000,000 trillion years you can understand a film by watching on your fucking telephone? Get real.
He's the best.
I love him because he's like, I get it. Like, have you ever tried to like download a movie on Netflix on your phone and watch it? It's fucking miserable. Yeah. So I totally agree with him. But
who's doing that as their first choice?
Well, so like when I've done not movies, but I've like done like TV shows like like when I'm on the subway, I have something to do.
Right. Traveling, but that's not my first choice.
It's never like how I choose to go into watching a film. But I just so the way that he's so like he's like the transcendental meditation guy. He's like very zen and very calm and quiet. So the fact that he just gets so angry, he's like, your fucking phone, get real. It makes me laugh. He's so angry.
I don't know, guys.
So good.
I'm good. Like again, we can probably keep going, but
there's so many beautiful things to talk about.
Very well done. We've talked a lot about movies that are just good stories that you can kind of get lost into. And I'm really happy that, I was able to suggest this one for us to view.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the year. So.
Yeah. No, I loved it.
Yeah.
Really beautiful. Really beautiful movie.
I liked it quite a bit.
Really unexpectedly moved me. in a way that I kind of needed. I've been a little locked up.
Yeah, it gives me
You know?
hope that like what we've chosen to be our field and like that craft and the artistry of acting, you know, it's work, but there's also like you can see those moments, simple moments that are very effective.
And what I really appreciate about this conversation, you know, especially was that kind of what I was talking about before is like it just in a selfish way. I've been feeling a little numb to what we do on camera.
Mm-hmm.
So like having that, just talking about that one scene with you guys kind of reoriented a lot of things for me in a positive way. So I appreciate that combo.
Yeah.
Well, I'm ready to rate. Unfortunately, Caleb outed me to the group chat this morning. I give it a 5 stars. I was thinking about it last night, and I couldn't not give it the 5 stars because I was thinking, well, 4.5 because there's some moments, but I'm like, no, like the good vastly outweighs like the silly things that I thought were silly, like the ending and some of the stuff. But like in terms of my experience with the movie, it's for me, it's a 5 out of 5.
Yeah. Caleb, have I given any 4.5s of that? Or just do you know?
What?
Have I given any 4.5s yet?
I mean, you've given 5s. You've given 4.5s.
Oh, I've given 5s?
Yes. We
Okay, if
go
I've
through
given
this
5s,
every week. Just read the
Then I'm
list
definitely
that I
giving it
send
a
you.
5.
Just
Then I'm giving it a 5.
You're giving a 5. Nice. I have it at 4.5 right now. Just on my first watch, I liked it a lot. It could go up when I watch it again. Who knows? I think it's extremely well done, for sure. Yeah, it was great pick, Josh. Thank you so much. I would
Really
never.
solid.
I don't think I would have watched this otherwise.
Oh, really?
No.
Like it
Same
wasn't on
here.
my radar at all. Like, you know what I mean? So I don't think it would have been something I would have gotten to. So thank you. I'm glad.
That's one of the things I absolutely love about this podcast is so many of the movies I never would have watched.
Yeah, like Purple Rain and Dogtooth and all your favorites. But anyway, Brandon.
You know what's funny? Those are like the only 2 I probably would have watched at some point because you would have been like, yo, watch this. Anyway. So next week, we have there's a new David Fincher movie coming out on Netflix that we wanted to watch. It's called Mank, I believe.
Mank, yeah.
Right? Mank. But with that, I've also picked another David Fincher flick. We're gonna go back to Zodiac.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna break that down, shout it out.
Ted Cruz
Hell of a
documentary.
cast.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, Zodiac.
Hell of a cast. I've seen bits and pieces of it before, but never sat down to watch the whole thing. I'm very excited. Yeah.
Great.
So
Double
hopefully it'll be
feature.
good.
We will have a very good friend, another MFAer, Max Pfeiffer.
4 MFAers, baby.
4 MFAers next week. I'm excited. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. I'm excited.
Gonna be dope.
All right. Like always, everyone, thank you for listening. Please check out our 3 MFAers podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcast, also YouTube and Instagram at the number. So I always do that. Why do I always do that?
I don't know. It's funny,
at the number 3 MFAers podcast on Instagram. Follow all of us. And next week we have a David Fincher double feature. Excited to see that. And keep a lookout for some. We got an extra special episode coming up with Ali Keller and Jim Fagan, producer and director of Zero Issue, which will be out soon as well. So check that out when it happens. And till next time.
Thanks for listening.